Never solve any problem by the same means you used to bring that problem to yourself. Number two, there's a very good question that the speaker asked, that what type of a president do we need in Kenya? It seems like when we come in Bunge, the first thing and the most nice thing that all of us love is to banter around politics, but not to speak whatever it takes to change this nation. It takes courage to change this nation. It takes the blind to see to change this nation. It takes self-awareness for this nation to change. It doesn't take any movement, because I believe in the history of Kenya. I don't think if we will ever see any crowd in this nation like what Raila used to pull. But he ended up not being a president of this land. And I will repeat again, we will never solve any problem in this land. But the same mentality we used to bring about that problem. I know most people love this narrative of going with waves. I'll be so foolish to stand here to deny that the fact that the likes of Babu Owino and Sifuna are doing something great. But the question is their actions greater than their words? That is a question that not any single Kenyan is asking himself. Because if you remember very well, Jaramogi was there. Kenyatta was also there when Mzungu was going away. He was speaking the same language, and he brought all the nation together back in 60s. But when he got into power, what happened? Could we be repeating the same mistakes that we've been doing for the rest of our lives? That is a question that a black man should be asking himself, not even a Kenyan. It is a question that nobody always wants to stand there and ask. Do you know why? Because we love comedy, because comedy gives you so many views in the internet. Because the media pushes what their narrative wants. Have you ever asked yourself why the media cannot sell somebody like Maraga? Have you ever asked yourself why the media cannot sell Maraga, but they prefer him to be a minister or any other person? Why do you think so? Is there anybody who have ever asked himself why the media can never sell the right people to be in office? That means for us to change power, we must own the nation, the media. For us to change power, we must be self-sufficient. For us to change whatever is happening, we must be in a position to actually sponsor our own candidates. That is a question. That is a question that not any single Kenyan wants to speak about. In the political arena today, is there anybody who knows any single individual politician who has never been in office, who is new into politics?
I can tell you one.
Who can change anything?
There's nobody.
That is a question that most of the time Kenyans never ask themselves. I want to recall the words of Malcolm X before he died in 1965. He said that for a black man to be free, he must understand that the oppressor who made a choice to oppress you will never give you that freedom. But the path of revolution is what will give a black man a freedom. We will never get that freedom we are yearning for, so long as we are not the drivers of any narrative in the nation. We will never get it. But every 5 years in any political arena, whatever will happen, every single individual will choose a side based on your interest, and that is what the nation will decide. And after 1 or 2 years after elections, we'll come here complaining again. Why am I saying that? We don't get time to speak about the real reason why we are suffering in Africa, not even in Kenya alone. Why? Because most credit is always given anywhere, not even in Bunge alone. If you go to the media, if you go to, even in the social media, do you know there is no one who will listen to what Miguna says? And even the mainstream media will not sell what Miguna wants. Do you know why? Because that is the hard truth. That is the hard reality that can change this nation. Forget about even what Babu Owino is selling or Gachagua. Or even Sifuna. The hard truth is what Miguna is saying is what can change this nation. But why do you think Miguna is not famous as them? Why do you think so? Because you and me have never stand in a position to question ourselves. What do we want to change our land? Remember, when Uhuru Kenyatta was the president of this land, when William Ruto came, what did he tell us? The narrative was the dynasty vis-a-vis the common people, right? In 2002, the narrative was, we are tired with Mo. We got Kibaki into power, right? We still have the same problems. Because I can remember there was a report written by a judge called Ndungu based on lands. Up to date, it has never been solved. In 2007, it was a tribal clash. The central people wametuongoza for so long. And we ended up with a post-election violence. In 2013, it was about generation. The young versus the old. If I'm not lying. In 2017, it was about supremacy battle. That was the narrative. In 2022, the poor versus the rich. The common versus the dynasty. Did it save us? In 2027, is one term versus two term. Do you think it is going to solve our problem? That is a question that a black man is not asking himself. From the northern part of this land to the southern part of this land. And I will tell you that the country that has suffered the most in the entire continent of Africa is DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. But up to date, they cannot get the freedom they want. In fact, Kenya has never gone into any war. Because even in 2007, you only lost around 1,300 lives. But do you know Congo at one point lost 20 million people as a population during King Leopold? But nobody talks about that. Nobody. Right now, there's a scenario. There's a dam that busted. After that dam busted, now we want to talk about real issues here. Not politics. Real issues that can change this nation. There's a dam that busted here in Rift Valley. After the dam busting, after the situation being controlled, what happened? The Israeli bought the Nini. I know this one cannot sell in the internet because the Jews control the world. This one cannot sell. So if you pick it, it's upon you. They bought the land, 520 something acres of land. Are you getting me? And nobody questions how many people died there. In Laikipia, there was a time the British Army based in Nanyuki brought about a fire and they spread chemical around Laikipia County. And it really killed so many people. Nobody talked about it. Until the day we will realize what is ailing us. And stop following these narratives of one term, two term, dynasty versus I don't know who. We will change what is ailing us. But this one, I'm very courageous to stand here and tell you that with the kind of narrative we are having, we are not going to get any difference in 2027. And after 1 year of election, we are going to come here and complain. That one I swear for you. Because nobody has the courage to understand that we need to take more than 15 years so that we can re-educate our minds to change this land. Nobody wants to form one single organization that can fight the system that has been controlling us. Nobody wants to do that because they feel, we always feel that that's too heavy for us. That's too heavy for us. Anytime a young man is seen to be on the right course, because we are poor, we always end up being bought. And right now, Kasmuel is destroyed. You see what is happening with him? Because they saw this young man, if he goes this direction for more than 5 years, he might end up saving the nation. But they ended up duping him. And there was a blueprint when we were getting independence. That was the blueprint that we signed in 1962 in Lancaster Conference. Number one, If you see any man who wants freedom for a black man, that is what they wrote down. If he's cheap, buy him with a liquor. If he's a little bit classy, fool him with some simple power, but don't give him what it takes to have the real power. Buy him cars, and that is exactly what they're doing even to our presidents. And that's why anytime, I guarantee you, the men who will board a plane to Chatham House, either one of them is going to be the president of this land, whether we like it or not. I don't know who he is, but I've only seen two men visiting Europe. That is Rigathi Gachagua and the sitting president. And it always happens so. When they come from Chatham House, UK, they go to Washington, D.C. When they come back here, they lie to you. And we elect them again. And the problems continue every single day. And nobody wants to talk about that. From morning to evening, we always talk about individuals here. Because none of us has the mandate and the power and the courage to come speak here and tell the people what is ailing them. Why? Because you and me doesn't want to take that time to listen to that. We love narratives. And those narratives will never change this nation. Until the day we'll find a way of speaking about the real issues of our land. That is when this nation will change. But so long as we keep on clinging on narratives, it will never change anything. Every one of us here will have a side to support. The one who will carry the day will win. But I guarantee you, you and me will never have anything to do with it, apart from those who will sit on the table. So it is high time we spend more credit here speaking about the real issues. What can